Welcome back to Hannity. Well, according to reports, former 2012 Republican presidential nominee Mitt Romney is the leading contender to be the next Secretary of State. But some of President-elect Donald Trump's top allies are speaking out against the potential move. Take a look.
I think the vast majority of Trump's supporters will initially be very unhappy and will be reminded of all the things that Romney said over the year. I can think of 20 other people who would be more naturally compatible with the Trump vision of foreign policy.
Right. I'm still very unhappy that Mitt did everything he could to derail Donald Trump. He didn't just go after him from a standpoint of saying, I disagree with his policy on immigration, I disagree with his policy on taxes. He attacked him on a personal level about his character, integrity, his honor.
In terms of Governor Romney, I think the Secretary of State position is such that, and all the cabinet positions, you have to be qualified and capable, number one. Number two, you have to be loyal to what President-elect Trump has said his vision of the world and his agenda is for those first 100 days or so.
So if you call him a...
Well, back with us now are Lisa Boothe, Charlie Hurt, and Doug Schoen. Okay, Doug, let me start with you because there is a method to everything that Donald Trump does. If Mitt Romney ends up being the Secretary of State, is this a case of keep your friends close and your enemies closer, much like what President Obama did with Mrs. Clinton, making her Secretary of State? In other words, that it's better to have your critics inside the tent rather than sniping at you from the outside.
I think that's certainly part of it, Monica, but I also think there's a bigger message here. By having Governor Romney as the Secretary of State, something I enthusiastically endorse, you both continue to unify the Republican Party and the country, and also you offer a different but compatible vision with that of the President-elect of the United States. Mitt Romney has said that Russia is the greatest strategic threat to the United States. I agree with that. He's spoken about Chinese bullying, terror, and Iran, ISIS, and the need to upgrade our military. He has a vision, and Monica, he has stature in the world. I think it is a big move of Donald Trump to consider Governor Romney for the reasons that Newt Gingrich and Mike Huckabee and Kellyanne Conway said, but it shows that Donald Trump is a big man with a big personality and the ability to look past the election to what I think are the greater and broader interests, not only of himself, but of the United States of America.
Charlie, I do think that Donald Trump respects Governor Romney. I think he respects his intelligence, his negotiating skills, his abilities as a turnaround artist, even his regal bearing, which is something that you would desire in a Secretary of State. But given the past comments and the acrimony that came from Governor Romney during the primary process, do you think he's somebody that President Trump could rely on to loyally carry out his foreign policy wishes? Or is it going to be somebody who might freelance foreign policy and cause some harm here?
Well, you know, for as long as Donald Trump is in the White House, there will be no Romney doctrine. So I don't think that we have to worry about that. Donald Trump is not the kind of guy that's going to let somebody freelance on his dime, I don't think. And I also don't think that Donald Trump is all that worried about Mitt Romney being on the outside sniping at Trump, just because he was so ineffective when he was going full bore attacking him during the campaign. But one thing I do think that it's a signal to the establishment that that Trump is willing to sort of unify the party, which I do think that is an important signal. But the other thing is, think about this: if Mitt Romney accepts the request to be his Secretary of State, what does that say, considering all the things that Mitt Romney said about Donald Trump? Was he kidding about all that, or is he? I mean, imagine the amount of crow he has to eat in order to accept that position and go work for the guy.
He might have some splaining to do.
Yes.
Lisa, so we saw all of these very loyal folks to Donald Trump, Newt Gingrich, Mike Huckabee, Kellyanne Conway, and others go public with their opposition, or at least their resistance to Mitt Romney. We also know that the Trump transition is doing their due diligence on people like John Bolton and Rudy Giuliani for Secretary of State, especially with Rudy. They're going through all of his business relationships and his speeches and so on. So they might still very well be in contention for this top job. How do you think this is ultimately going to play out?
Yeah, I mean, there's been no announcement here, but if he ultimately chose to go with Governor Romney,
as Secretary of State, he certainly has the credentials and the resume to back that up. And I think what we've seen from Donald Trump is him selecting people based off of merit. And yes, he's been loyal to his loyalists as well. We saw him bring in Senator Sessions, General Flynn, and Representative Pompeo as well. So there has been a lot of that, of paying back the people that have been loyal to him. But he's also looking at people based on merit. And I think what he does, if he was to choose someone like Governor Mitt Romney, is coalition building. And that's really important for him, because if you look at the Senate right now, he's probably going to end up with 52 Republicans in the Senate. So he needs to keep all of his Republicans and the entire conference in line with him and together collaboratively moving the country forward in the direction that he wants to move the country. So he's going to need all those different types of Republicans. And I think it shows that, one, he's an adult, being able to look past that, moving beyond that, and seeing someone based off their merit. And two, I think it shows that he wants to bring the Republican Party together and do some big things for the country. Now, ultimately, the decision needs to come down to, does he trust Governor Romney? And we have to trust, based off the conversations that he has had with Governor Romney, that he does if he decides to bring Governor Romney on as Secretary of State.
Doug, there's one other thing that nobody has really mentioned here, and that is the desperate need for reform of the entrenched leftist anti-Israel bureaucracy in the State Department. You want a Secretary of State that's going to go in and smash the existing order, as Donald Trump has promised on a larger scale. Who do you think can do that in the most effective way?
Well, first, I think, any one of the prospective candidates, John Bolton, Rudy Giuliani, and Mitt Romney, can and will do this. You're absolutely right. One, we need to break up the anti-Israel cabal in the State Department. But second, we need someone of great stature who can bring the Israelis and the Palestinians together with leadership and make it clear that it is not going to be a process of Israel giving away the whole West Bank, no more settlements, and basically folding its tent on every issue. I think Governor Romney can do it, but the entire Republican establishment, from what I read and what I see, is for that. And as a strong supporter of Israel, somebody who's worked for 3 prime ministers, I heartily endorse this and think this is a very important step to change American attitudes, policies, and direction.
Yes, the State Department needs to be shaken up, just as the diplomacy does on the world stage. All right, guys, thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Monica.
Great to see you. All right, coming up, the liberal mainstream press continues to launch attacks against President-elect Donald Trump. It's only just begun. We're going to show you the latest example. And later, after the outrage over fake news on social media, liberal journalists are pushing a very questionable story that claims voting machines may have been hacked and that Hillary Clinton likely won the election. Yes, you heard that right. We will have reaction to all of that and more as Hannity continues.